N-N-E-R. I reside at 116 Welsh Lane in Dunsmuir, and I'm here tonight representing Dunsmuir Live, which is a community-based organization under the umbrella of the Siskiyous Art Council. And we are seeking the City Council's action requesting inspection of the California Theater under City Code 9.14.05. So a little bit about the vision, and I think anyone coming through town sees the California Theater and says, why is it closed? It's like the crown jewel of downtown. And the thing about a vision is first you think about it, then you talk about it, and then you do something. And Dunsmuir Live envisions the California Theater as a catalyst for downtown revitalization. It can be live entertainment, music performances, community events, public conferences, regional events, films, a number of other kind of possibilities. As background, an economic impact study from Reading, just an example, showed that the study by the Americans for the Arts showed that the Cascade Theater contributed $4.1 million a year to the region economy, supports 131 jobs, and contributes a 60% increase to businesses and shows. And over a year, contributed 1,000 hotel stays because of the theater. This is a big project, and so we have to look at it as small steps. Dunsmuir Live has taken a number of those small steps, and the first thing was to form a community-based organization, and we've gathered over 400 signatures showing community support for the efforts to save the California Theater. The City Council designated the California Theater as a historic landmark building, and that was a key step. City Council also adopted Code 9.14.5, which is the property inspection code, which states the owners of any abandoned or distressed commercial property shall provide access to city to conduct an exterior and interior inspection of the building or structure to determine compliance with the municipal codes. There's also been the downtown revitalization strategy, which identified one of the highest priorities is the California Theater, and the council just recently approved the initiative for program and funding. So the time is now for the City Council to do something. Our hat goes off to the council for doing the recent Dunsmuir Hotel inspection, consisting of building inspector, nuisance abatement, fire chief, health inspector, and the objective is a report within 90 days outlining the necessary repairs to bring the building up to code. So the action we're seeking is for the City Council to designate the next action for under Code 9.14.5 to focus on the California Theater, and that we envision that if we wait too long, this building could be lost. I've recently learned that the Palace Theater in Weed recently did an inspection, and they said it's too late to save, it's trash. Let's not let that happen to the crown jewel or downtown. Thank you.
Hi, Alan Clother, 4409 Oak Street. Three things came to mind as we think about downtown revitalization. I don't stand for you critical. It's just here's some ideas that I've noticed. The other night on a Friday night, Martin over at Cobra Lily posted an empty bar at 8 p.m. and his comment was, "This is why we can't have nice things." And it broke my heart. We literally dropped our freshly popcorn and went to Cobra Lily. And so as we think about downtown revitalization, I think we need to make sure our marketing plan addresses how we market to our own people, our own community, to use the places that we have here. And we've talked a lot about that through the years. How do people know what's going on? So I think, yeah, I don't know, just split that into plan. The other thing I was looking at is the land on the other side of Butterfly Bridge. I wasn't sure if that would be incorporated into a park-like area so that we could have a downtown park. So when you go across Butterfly Bridge, those two pieces of land could be riverfront. And then the third thing is we have a boiling need for a museum. So Siskiyou Arts Museum is really not a museum, but people jump off the freeway to the historic downtown of Dunsmuir, and they come to the museum where I'm sitting with a gallery, and they go, "Where's the museum?" And of course, it's Railroad Depot. It's a hardware store. It's elements here and there. So as we move forward, what does that look like? Will UP tear down our Railroad Museum that's rarely open anyway? So these are all conversations that are all bubbling right now, but I'm not asking for immediate action on. I'm just suggesting we put it on the list. Thank you.
Ernie Wasson, 307 South Second Street, and I'm here to first of all thank the city for supporting this Second Saturday events by giving money to help publicize it, and then also the city's getting the grant money, applying for getting the grant money, and then starting the downtown revitalization plan. So thank you, thank you, thank you. My interest, I mean, I'm involved with the Art Museum and the Botanic Garden, but I really am interested in downtown revitalization. And our special corner in the middle there with Cornerstone, the theater, the bank, the hotel, that seems to be the spot that we really need to concentrate on. I really think that somebody said, and I like this quote, our downtown could easily be marketed as a tasty treat wrapped around outdoor recreation, visual and performing arts, unique local shops, trains, and restaurants, all in a small town setting with small town prices. People around here may think that some of the prices are expensive, but if they go somewhere else, they're going to find that we're not as expensive. So I totally support the city moving forward and getting the inspection of the Hotel Dunsmuir, and I totally support my neighbor here talking about we need to get the theater inspected and start that whole process. And I really do think the theater is the kingpin of downtown. If we get the theater open and we have events there, whether it be music or small conferences or the arts or film, it really is going to energize the motels, the restaurants, everything else downtown. So I think, to me, that's the really kingpin of downtown. So I hope that we can really bring the theater back to life, and I think that'll really.
1 minute.
Pardon?
1 minute.
1 minute. Bringing the theater back to life would really give a jolt to the downtown revitalization. And so, as our elected representatives of the city, I urge you to move forward in whatever way you can to promote that. And thank you.
Hello, I'm Kate Clother, 4403 Oak Street. I am the director of the Dunsmuir Chamber, and I'm just sharing with you all that I'm really excited. We are bringing back the Dunsmuir Awards Gala dinner, planned for Friday, May 9th. We'll have the Alexander Dunsmuir Award, Citizen of the Year Award, Business of the Year Award, and we're even going to have Teacher of the Year Award. And someone said maybe some Dundee style awards too, to make it fun, even more fun. So yeah, that's happening. And then I'm also working on bringing back Dogwood Days, which will be a continuation of that weekend. So May 9th, 10th, into Mother's Day on May 11th. And May 10th is also a second Saturday. Hi, Jeremiah. Okay, and that's all I've got. Thanks.
Short and sweet. David Hicks, 5630 Dunsmuir Avenue. You remember when it came up in Washington, D.C. that women should be allowed to vote? Everyone said it's not time. So I want you all to resent delay, please. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone else in the room? Okay, we'll go ahead and move to Zoom. I see one hand up.
Good evening, city members. 4116 Pine Street, Alan Magana, Al's Depot and Emporium, the legally licensed dispensary in the beautiful historic downtown district. I would want to thank the beautiful, awesome maintenance personnel that work tirelessly to keep Pine Street plowed and accessible during the recent snowstorms. Your dedication to our community's safety and well-being doesn't go unnoticed. I'd also like to thank City Council for their efforts in supporting local businesses and initiatives. Your leadership and vision for Dunsmuir's future are truly appreciated. As we move forward in this venture, I'm excited to continue working together to bring on-site consumption to Dunsmuir. This initiative has potential to boost local economic growth, create new opportunities, and enhance our community's reputation as a welcoming destination. Thank you again for your hard work and your commitment to Dunsmuir. I'm eager to collaborate and bring this vision to life. Let's continue to work together to make Dunsmuir an amazing place to live, work, and visit. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else want to comment on Zoom? If so, raise your hand. If not, I will bring public comment to close.
You can gamble if you want. There's no rule against it. You can be gratuitous with it. They're weaker than you think. So I'm always afraid I'm gonna break it. Yeah.
Okay, am I doing this part? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead with council and staff comments. We'll start with Sheriff. Both of you.
Hey, Sheriff, the Sheriff. Oh,
We'll
Well,
give
thank
you, we'll give you the privilege here that you haven't been here in a while. So.
I know. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate that. Sheriff Jeremiah LaRue, born and raised in Dunsmuir, still here. Appreciate all that you do. Probably don't hear that very often, especially in these positions that we have, but doesn't go unnoticed the work that you do. And so I want to thank you for your partnership in Dunsmuir. We have an excellent contract. I know we're always trying to modify it, which is still open to that. Every year we provide thousands of hours of service, which we're trying to get away from just talking about hours, but we always meet our goal and exceeding that, usually about 120% of what we are contracted for. And that's not to say that you owe us anything for that. We just like to be here and we like to serve. And we've recognized that there's a need that goes beyond just that block of hours. So we're here, you know, we're some of us live here and we're friends and family around. So a lot of things have happened in the sheriff's office over the last year and things that are pertinent to you. I'll mention just a couple of them. One is we've really been pushing this community service model, which I know Sergeant Ortiz is really good about doing, but it's getting out of your car, talking to people. We get very busy, short-staffed. Oftentimes we're driving to and from, and we have to encourage people just to remember that we got to get out and talk to people, have those one-on-one conversations so that we get to know one another, and we're just regular people like you all. So we want to continue doing that, and working with the schools is very important. We do a good job. Rich leads that, where we go and visit with the schools and talk to them and make sure that the students get familiar with us. I think it's a great opportunity. We teach the DARE program at the elementary school, and it's a great opportunity to instill values into those and just get people ready for life. And the DARE program teaches a lot more than it used to. It's not just about drugs anymore, but we even talk about bullying, vaping, and also just how to plan your life and the steps, and the people that you hang out with can change everything. So there's a lot of great things that we're doing, and just bringing back that community involvement is always our aim. So it does take a partnership with the public and the sheriff's office. So we're always here to listen to your concerns. And one of the things that we're going to be doing this year, and I'm hoping to have that down here in Dunsmuir as our first sort of town hall, if you will. And what that will be is an opportunity for us to maybe show a PowerPoint presentation about where we've come from over the years, some history of the department, where we've kind of gone in the last few years, but then really to give you an opportunity to provide us some input and guidance. so we can make it the kind of agency that you want to see. Because we don't claim to know everything. It's helpful to know what people think. A lot of our job involves handling calls for service that may not involve a lot of you. So we have limited contact. And so we want to try to strengthen that because, again, the people that we necessarily are contacting aren't those that maybe you belong to, if you will. So we want to make sure that we just capture all the needs of the community and find ways to deliver that because that's what we're supposed to do. We're public service. And it's not really, this is what you get. It's more of, I want to hear what you want so we can try to make it happen. We're working on some new grants. We have new equipment, new vehicles finally, and new decals. If you've seen those on the vehicles, they're kind of nice. We're happy to have that. Kind of gives us a fresh look. I think the guys like that. We've had some old stuff for a long time. Some of them don't start anymore, but money is always a challenge for all of us. And so we try to do the best with what we have. So anyways, I'm happy to answer any questions. We have had some notable cases through the year. There's been, I think, some good opportunities for some of our newer folks that we've hired in the last year or so. I think we have over 35 new deputies that have less than 3 years on. So it's a fairly young department, which is good because we can start mentoring them the way that we kind of want them to be. And again, that is involving the community. So anyways, I'm always happy to be here. I love Dunsmuir. I live here. I guess that's why I love it, but it's home to me. And so I appreciate all that you do. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or I'll turn it over to our sergeant here if he has any words of wisdom. Always does.
Got very few words of wisdom. Thank you, Sheriff. So just, the one, I was going through our cases for the 2023, 2024. I always like to kind of get a highlight reel for the end of the year council meeting. The city is really shaped up from where it was 10 years ago. This used to be kind of a high-speed little town to work in, and it's not that way now. It's bad. So I had to search kind of high and low for some shock and awe type cases. They weren't there. I did find one that I'm particularly proud of. Deputy Sloan. It was her case. There was a person that lived on Upper Soda Springs Road. He had been minding his own business at work all day long, and he came home and found a stranger inside his house. So they argued with one another briefly, and that man ran out of his house wearing his clothes. He was in but he got dressed in the homeowner's clothes and rabbits out the door. And so Deputy Sloan and I actually found him in the weeds next to the river behind the Tall and Dolly footpath in that area. And so he was arrested that day, and he's been since found guilty of that crime. But he originates from the Scott Valley area of our county, and he's a bad person. He does a lot of bad things constantly. It's what he does. It's his favorite thing. So he's being held accountable for a lot of those. So I checked in with the courts last week while preparing this report, and he's like on strike 7. So he is headed to prison for a substantial amount of time. So thankfully, he shouldn't be in any of the Dunsmuirians' homes in the near future. And then another thing, just kind of we had the big green monster of a motorhome that was working about the city for months. I think everybody loves that thing equally. The sheriff's office and the city partnered, and you'll notice that the motorhome is no longer with us. It is on a farm or somewhere else, not in Dunsmuir, and it shan't return. So no more green monster motorhome. I'm sure another one will show up, but not that exact same one. So my generic report for January 2025 is the sheriff's office fielded 324 calls for service. We took a total of 19 cases, wrote 5 citations, had 4 misdemeanor arrests, 2 felony arrests. I was proud of my team for the fact that they did 49 patrol checks. Those are pretty much drive-by and spotlights. They had 39 security checks. Those are get out, jiggle the doorknob, look around. We've got a really good team working for us down here right now. They're routinely out on foot, especially in our business district, you know, checking those doorknobs on the commercial buildings, you know, looking out for these people's investments, the store owners. We would do it to people's houses, but it'd be awkward if they were shaking their door in the middle of the night. The other thing I was proud of the team on is 69 school checks. Those take place during the day and night, but at Dunsmuir Elementary and Dunsmuir High School, 69 occasions the schools were formally checked on and over the radio. I'm sure there were some more that didn't make it over the radio, but they are keeping a close eye on the schools, making sure our kiddos are safe. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
If I may. Thank you so much, Sheriff LaRue, for coming down and speaking with us. I look forward to the opportunity for the community to engage with you. It's just a wonderful continuation of how you added your own thought and vision and intention to the department in the last 3 years. While you're here and captive, want to let you know that Sergeant Ortiz has been an excellent leader here with law enforcement in the town, and that his personal commitment to the job is a primary factor in us being very happy with the sheriff's department. So thank you for that. We'd love to have him as long as you don't promote him, but don't let that stand in the way. We have struggled over the years with the relationship of wanting our own, you know, directly controlled law enforcement that is lockstep with the community. Talk to the city manager regularly. Rich has been the perfect kind of go-between where he gives us some of that while still maintaining your, you know, different system. If you could consider internally transferring him to primarily days, it might be very advantageous in him being able to continuously communicate with our staff and community kind of as the role of police chief. I think for training purposes, he may need to go to nights, et cetera, but the 1 week on, 1 week off, it occurs to me that would be a wonderful way to have him feel more like the police chief full-time, because he doesn't disappear day-wise, you know, with the community. So if you could take that into consideration, I appreciate it.
I certainly will. Thank you for that. Appreciate the nice compliments too to our sergeant. He's doing a great job, and yeah, what more could we say? So we'll keep him as long as we can.
Any other comments? Comments?
No.
Comments?
All right. No
Okay.
comments. I can do my report now. All right, over the last couple of weeks, we've been focused a lot on storm-related activities, snow removal, and then the potential for rain that never really formulated. And then we've been working on trees, and then before the storms and kind of intermediary. Hopefully the weather's supposed to shift. We're supposed to get back to that next week. Also, Public Works staff's been doing training to work on their certifications. And mostly what I've been focusing on, a lot of it, economic development activities. So I appreciate everybody's comments about the downtown revitalization strategy and all of that, those activities. There is momentum building, I can tell you that. And I would say just recently, it's probably 30 to 40% of my time is spent related to economic development activities and interested private parties, not just city driven. And so that's really encouraging. And so I'm kind of excited about that. And then other than that, I've been working with HR on the personnel policy. Comments or questions?
Okay. All right, moving on. Do we have any committee reports? No committee reports?
No, I don't think so.
I think the pre-agenda committee was the only one I just.
It's not really a committee, but sure.
Yeah.
You claim it.
All right.
You talked about the agenda before the agenda was printed.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Okay, then we'll go on to approval of the minutes from February 6th.
So moved.
Second, okay.
And then for votes, you will have to do a roll call vote for all votes moving forward so that Mayor Clarence can participate.
Okay. Do we do a roll call vote for that?
Just call for roll call.
Yeah, just
Oh.
say.
Oh,
when you
call for
agree.
roll call?
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye. We're really tired, guys.
Councilmember Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sebring,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes approved.
Yes.
Okay, next we move on to this consent agenda. The check register of 131 to 214.
I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, roll call again. Roll call?
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Lucchese,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sebring,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
Okay, approved. We have no public hearings, no old business, so moving on to new business.
All right, Mayor and Council, on new business, our first item, discussion of possible action on drafting and sending a letter to federal representatives on impacts of federal funding to city finances. This item came up kind of last minute, and so there is a letter a draft letter that I provided for you that is supplementary to the packet. There is some available on the podium for those in the audience, and this item was brought forward by Councilmember Casey. So if she has any additional comments on.
Sure. So there should be a copy of the letter provided at the podium as well. If not, I can volunteer my version to it. This is in response to the current cutting of federal funding in a lot of the programs that disproportionately benefit rural communities, whether people realize it or not, especially our USDA rural development grants, our community development block grants, which is what's paying for the downtown revitalization plan. That is also a fund that cities typically use to fund building improvements, building acquisition. And so there have been discussions at the federal level of cutting these funds entirely, if not 50% at this point. And so one of the other pieces that's pretty disheartening personally is that they will be cutting and are currently cutting National Forest Service jobs in our area. They have let people go in the Klamath National Forest, to my understanding at this point. And just as we know as a community, and especially it's very pertinent today because we're talking about wildfire severity zone upgrades and resilience in the community, having our National Forest Service fully staffed is really important to us here in this area. And I think a lot of what's going on at the federal level is not taking in the perspective and context of a lot of communities that need these resources, that require these resources to be able to fund things. For example, a lot of our municipal updates to our infrastructure are funded through the community development block grant. Additionally, a lot of what people don't know is that a lot of state funding is seeded with federal funding. So if we have less federal funding going to our revolving loan fund, which pays for water upgrades, sewer upgrades, unfortunately, if we're going to get mandates from the state and we're going to need to meet those and we don't have federal funding, our next funding option is utility bill payers. And so, you know, this is a big issue right now for a lot of people. And I think it's just very important to communicate to our federal representatives in both the House and the Senate that these are going to be very detrimental to us. Another big thing to understand is your food prices are not going to get better this year. And it just ends up being a really detrimental thing for us. I understand people's need or understanding of the federal government to downsize, do that, but I think having the current cuts as they're listed right now, it's going to disproportionately impact us, and it's going to increase the cost of living for us in this area, and especially with our median income not being very high, it's not going to get higher, you know, in the foreseeable future. And so it's a very general letter. just basically outlining some of the key services that we specifically have used in the past. One of the ones I did not mention is the Federal Aviation Administration, which ironically is not facing a lot of cuts.
So far.
Because airplanes are really important, right? And I mean, they are very important, but in the grand scheme of things, people need to eat kind of before they need to fly. But these programs are also going to be impacting small business funding. And so we've all kind of talked about downtown revitalization. And if we do want people to occupy these buildings downtown, they're going to need small business assistance. And so this is basically just outlining 4 actions that we're asking our representatives, which is to protect funding for federal agencies that serve rural areas, supporting adequate staffing level at these agencies. Because additionally, if we see reductions in staff, something that the public may not know is that when we're doing grant administration and we get a new grant administrator at the federal level, it's like starting a whole new conversation with a new person. And so that delays our reimbursement, that delays us getting funding. And so having people being adequately staffed is something that needs to happen to ensure that we're being serviced by the federal government with those funds. And then we're asking to oppose any attempts to reduce or eliminate rural development programming and staffing positions, as well as championing new initiatives that address the unique challenges facing rural America. These were things that people campaigned on. So I don't think they're far out of this. Is just supporting agriculture, natural resource management within our communities. It doesn't seem like a really big ask, but it kind of is right now. And that's basically what we brought forward today, is just doing this letter, getting us all to sign it if we're happy with it, or amending it if we don't feel comfortable with it. It does not require the city to do anything, but I will be going down to Sacramento next week. And it is nice to have something to take to some of our state representatives as well, just urging them to also continue to support rural funding at the state level, as well as influencing, if they can, federal representatives. So that's it.
Does anybody have any questions? Questions?
My one
I
would
have no
be, the recipients would just be all federal representatives.
Yeah, so the 2 senators and then Representative LaMalfa's office,
And
who
the president,
represent
of
our
course.
district. What?
And the president.
I mean, if you want to, I'm not sure he knows how to read at this point. I don't even care. I'll say it.
Make sure you post it on X.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. It's, if you would like to waste the postage, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your expertise on that. And I definitely think that without any money or support, we're not going to get very far with any of our plans going on here. So I think it's a fantastic idea.
We gotta do public comment.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the typical order is introduce, clarifying questions, public comment, then discussion, and if it needs.
It's okay. It's a low stakes item.
All right.
We're not.
We'll go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Question hold.
It was in the news today that a number of states, Maine, Alaska, and some others, have been asking the office of the president if their state could have an exemption from the cuts that are coming. Of course, to me, that makes no sense at all, and it can't happen because it has to be one rule for everybody. That's a basic lawmaking rule. So I hope that we do this and that you send it out more than once. Thanks very much. And Sergeant Ortiz, great comments. Thanks.
Does anyone else have any public comment on this? Okay, moving on to staff comments. Discussion.
So I have something I'd like to say on this. I think that this letter is important to send off, and I think it's also appropriate to send off as most people in the here know, I'm a big believer of keeping national politics and local politics separate. I do think it is important for us to send off this letter, and I think it's important regardless of your political leanings. For those on the one side of the aisle who are opposed to what's currently happening in Washington, D.C., it's important to send off this letter for those reasons. And for those who are supporting a lot of these cuts, when a lot of these cuts went through, one of the big things that was said is that, especially with Doge, was that there's going to be cuts, and then people were going to have to say why things are needed, and explain why these programs are needed, explain why this money needs to get spent. And then those that got support would stay in place. So regardless of people's stance on national issues, it just seems like an appropriate thing to send off to have support for our funding.
Okay. And I would agree that it's very important to get this letter out.
I guess, I think I'm comfortable enough with the letter. It does include a great many things, and there's not a lot of, say, support for it. Like, I guess I would like to know the status of a lot of these things being certain. I have heard a lot of headlines. Some of them sound quite dire. The Forest Service, for example, I was told by someone within our local forest that all temporary hires were not going to be rehired going back all the way back to October.
The Klamath National Forest let go of every employee who was under 1 year, so they lost 18
Yeah.
people this week.
So the Shasta Trinity, I believe, had a freezing hire, at least, I think it was Forest Service wide, for all new hires going back to October. I opposed it then because we were in danger of things like McLeod Falls not being open. You know, Castle Lake, they'll close the gate potentially, you know, and it's our land. It needs to be managed better or be given back to maybe people who would enjoy the management. So I'm very supportive of that side. I would just like to know, say with the block grants, if our particular block grants are in fact cut. I think that's something that's very important for us to know, understand, and maybe we'd send a letter with stronger language. But I think this generic thing saying that we do support federal resources for rural areas fits with my beliefs.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to understand right now what's going on. There is a proposal that has been brought forward, whether that gets approved by Congress or not, to cut CDBG funding nationally by at least 50%. I think my insistence on putting this on sooner rather than later and keeping it a little bit more broad is like, now is the time to advocate, because they haven't necessarily cut it yet at Congress. There's a lot of things happening at the executive office that are, you know, they are capable of doing, but at the end of the day, funding is determined by Congress. The purse does, you know, stay with Congress and not the executive office of the United States. And so I think now is the time to start a nudge, but I think we do need to be much more, the sentiment is we need to be much more active in how we're engaging our federal representatives. I apologize, my dog has migrated back to where I typically sit. Yeah, so I think that's my hope with this. One of the other things to note is the school districts are getting hit really, really hard. And so I know the Wairika school districts just announced they'll be firing all of their health aides, and they will be firing or letting go 17 teachers' aides as well. So again, it doesn't just impact our city, but it impacts our school district that we have here. We don't really have jurisdiction over that. But just advocating for our needs in general, it's not something that we've typically done to begin with very often. I figured this is at least a start. It's been pretty disheartening contacting these offices as an individual and just getting nowhere. It's, you know, I feel as though the representative should represent us.
I appreciate you bringing us forward, Juliana, as sitting in or understanding it from this perspective of what we do on a daily basis is tough to explain to everybody in the audience. But I could tell you that one of the concerns was that we might not have Stephen anymore, and those kind of things impact people that we know, when we see teachers get fired and those kind of things. So I think it's very important that the council takes action on this, and engages our representatives and then lets them know how it does impact us, because that's why they're there. So.
Yeah, and if you want to write a stronger letter, you can. I am not an emotional person, as many people are aware. I'm more of the technical side. I did add our survival quite literally depends on it, which is a hyperbole I don't normally engage in, but I thought you would like. So this is my attempt at being heartfelt for as like robotic as I am. But I think generally for everybody in the room, I am not super optimistic of the next year and a half, and it's going to be really rough. A lot of the strategies that I utilize in my job has shifted, where we're going to have to look to the rural jurisdictions to provide a lot of this support. And that is very difficult for this community to do, because we don't have a lot of resources to begin with to pull from. Like I said, if we don't get, oh, I don't like that. I don't like hearing my voice.
How did you do that?
I hate that. You're okay. No, it's not going to be great. And I, again, professionally, what we're shifting in the planning realm is shifting to local jurisdictions being able to care for themselves. But like I said, we don't have the resources to necessarily pull from that. So we're going to have to get real creative, and we're going to have to dig real deep here in the next year and a half, at least, as everything kind of comes down the pipeline. But like I said, local food is going to get hit the most, and I'm really sorry to break that to people. But one of the big things people don't realize that has gotten frozen is our soils programs. A lot of our soils programs are done through climate resilience, and they're done through language that is associated with climate change. And so a lot of those programs have been stalled. And so if you know anything about agriculture, soil is kind of important. And to not get access to these things, it's going to be very detrimental to us. And again, looking at some of the other concerns is the California Labor Department was reporting like they've lost like 40% of the farm laborers right now. Some of that has recovered. There is a stigma to farm workers in California, which they pick your produce. Immigration is a different conversation, but when you get down to brass tacks and cost, if there is no one to pick your food and you are not willing to go pick your own food, no one will go do that. So those are the things we're talking about. And so that's kind of where my thought process is it's going to be rough if we don't start stepping up a little bit.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't have a chance to review the letter prior to this, but it does strike me as very broad, and I would favor maybe stronger language, but a more narrower focus on programs that we know directly interact with the city. Now, the macro picture, while I'm personally concerned, and I think everybody has to be, I think is an area where our advocacy will go less far than something that's more of a direct interaction. But I'm supportive, and if there's no further discussion, I'd be happy to move that we send this letter to our federal and state representatives.
I'll second.
Oh. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Oh, we roll call it too. Okay, we'll do roll call.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sebring,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving on, appointment of Finance Committee and Planning Commission members.
All right, Mayor and Council, we received an application for the Finance Committee from Alan Clother, and he is present in the audience. So if you would want to question him and interrogate him, I'm sure he'll partake. But staff's recommendation is to to approve the application for the appointment.
Okay,
And just to clarify, this would just be for finance committee.
Correct.
Okay. It said finance / planning commission, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to
The
double
next
dip.
item kind of addresses the vacancies on planning commission. So
Thank you.
Kind of, I didn't get that corrected.
Do you have any questions? Do we step forward?
If you want to, I think there's some people who aren't aware.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do two. I got the living room finished, so Cynthia gave me permission to get involved in something else. Anyway. I'll just say I'm excited to work with Matthew, Dustin, Michael. Last year was disheartening to me with all the noise that Michael had to put up with about finance. And one of the things that I have taken upon myself to do since I've been here is to squish false rumors, false information, whether it's on social media or on the streets. And so part of me being involved in reading the 50-page budget and the 50-page audit and being part of the finance team is so I can bring the truth of the team to the streets when that crazy stuff starts to happen. So besides the fact I have a general interest in Dunsmuir's health as well. So, questions?
Thank you for putting your name
Rubber
in.
stamp?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm really, really excited to have you on there.
And then you would request public comment.
okay. Is there any public comment on this matter? Okay, no public comment, we'll move on.
I'll make a motion to appoint Alan Clother to the finance committee for a 4-year term. So for a full 4-year term.
I
I'll
second
second.
that.
Oh, you can have it.
Okay, and do roll call?
Was that Sebring?
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sebring,
Aye.
Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll see you next week. Oh.
So next one is the vacancy.
Yep, next one is a public notice for planning commission vacancy.
All right, Mayor and Council, Deputy Clerk Wendy Perkins had asked to put this on the agenda, kind of to announce that we are putting public notice out that we do have 2 vacancies on our planning commission now. And we do have our planning commission consists of 7 members. Currently, we only have 5. So for us to meet quorum, we have to have 80% participation rate of the current ones. And so this is a public notice that we're going to put out and advertise. And we just wanted to bring awareness to the council and the community at a public meeting to address the vacancies.
I have a quick question. I know for all of our committees, we allow people within the sphere of influence. So in other words, South Dunsmuir and the surrounding areas.
Mic's off, Matthew.
It was on.
All right, we allow the sphere of influence residents, as I think defined by LAFCO, but anyway, the sphere of influence residents to participate in our committees. They just can't make up a quorum of the committees. So do you know what the current makeup is of the planning commission? Because I know there's a couple members that are.
Currently, there's 2.
Okay.
Stephen recently just moved out of you are no longer in the sphere of influence. Is that what the problem is?
I am no longer in the sphere of influence. We don't technically use the LAFCO definition. However, the planning commission does specifically say only 2 members can be outside the city limits. And there are already 2 members outside the city limits. So when I moved outside the city limits, I had to leave.
Total of 5, right?
The intention.
Out of 7. So
Okay.
That 2 was based off of a 5-member board. I'm pretty sure it was just a language.
We just
mess
didn't
up.
update that.
Yeah, so not to step back from here, I would propose if we could at future meeting, revisit that, because South Dunsmuir is part of Dunsmuir. So I think that the basic rule that we've used throughout my time here has been no more than a majority.
Well, it's a Brown Act. The Brown Act basically states that if you have outside city limit planning commissioners, they cannot make up the majority.
And that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I totally understand. But
But we did not update the number.
given our unique situation where over a third of our town is not in the city limits, I think it's important we keep that clarified until we bring them back into the fold.
I'll bring it up at future agenda items.
Thank you.
And I don't know if there's, maybe go to public comment, if there's any additional.
Is there any public comment on this? Okay, seeing no public comment.
So we're in discussion now.
Discussion, yeah.
I waited. What is the council's thought process on stipends? It's more common now than ever to start paying planning commissioners for their time, because a lot of people have to either get childcare or they have a difficulty making it as an incentive to do that. Is that something that the rest of council would want to look at if we're having vacancy issues? I know we don't get paid, but that's a whole nother thing that could be addressed. If we had like people not wanting to run for council, that would be like my next thing is, you know, some kind of financial incentive, but I guess, is that something that people would be willing to discuss at a future meeting?
I'd be willing to discuss.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, same here.
okay. I've looked into it several times for a couple other cities, so I can just throw over the research and we can set it for a future agenda.
Okay, and I think, you know, I think it's appropriate that we do discuss in a future meeting about what that makeup looks like, and I'll bring back, we can add that on future agenda and discuss that.
I think I'd like to keep the two items separate if
Okay.
possible, but at the same meeting would be great, because I don't want to necessarily convolute language update to allow for the quorum piece,
Right.
and then fiscal reimbursement being another thing. So, thank you.
Any other comments?
Sounds good.
Okay. Moving on.
Do we need to have a motion on this or anything?
No, it's
No.
information.
It's information only. Cool. All right.
Okay, moving on, approve water main extension into the city park and amend the budget.
All right, Mayor and Council, so in our current budget, we had budgeted 75,000 approximately to do any water main extensions or improvements that are outside of a standard project. We've kind of been holding this as, we have a few shorter ends of pipe that we need to like either replace that we can do internally. And so as a part of the Public Works project, we had added a 6-inch water main with a fire hydrant up to the home that is that we own directly behind the community center. We have decided that, you know, last year we went through the process of having the bathrooms closed because of fire. We don't have any fire protection in the park. And we had spoke with the contractor and it's kind of slow for contractors right now. So we have an opportunity to take some potential savings and from their standpoint, because they are slow and looking for work to expand on what we had planned to do. So our original plan, if you look on page 12 of the packet, there's a blue line that says 4-inch extension. And so currently the red line over on the top right of the little map, that is, we are having issues. We believe that portion of our issues in the ballpark that are causing the wetness and dampness, we have a break in that line somewhere. That's a 2-inch line. It comes from the curb and goes all the way down to the bathrooms. And then from the bathrooms, it goes all the way to the Little League ball field. And so with this expansion, so we have a 6-inch water line and a 4-inch, our goal is to put a fire hydrant down in the park to expand our fire coverage and also to provide better flows for the Little League field, which we still have to do some improvements across the river, but this is kind of the next step. And then also finishing the loop by doing a 4-inch over to connect to the 2 and then abandoning a significant portion through the ball field where we believe there's what's causing our leaks, our dampness in the field that never seems to dry out. So, so what I'm asking of the council is to allow for an additional, up to an additional 57,000 on top of our 75, and also approve that we can go with SNL to conduct the work. So I'm open to any questions.
No
So
questions.
this would increase the fire hydrants from just the one at the top of the hill that's new to the one down there at the bottom of the hill, is what I'm looking at?
Correct. And so there will be a third one that will be added over on, so there's a
On the
2-inch line that goes off to the left, you know, kind of the bottom left, down here on towards the bottom of the map. It says 2-inch to be extended. That line will connect all the way over to Masson. And we do not have a fire hydrant on the corner of Masson and Buckboard. So ultimately, once this is completed, then we will have added 3 fire hydrants to the system in an area that's, you know, potentially highly volatile from a fire standpoint, and also provide better flows to the area along Buckboard and Masson and in the park.
Has the fire chief reviewed?
Yeah, we have been in discussion with the fire chief, and he's in agreement with that. Just, you know, when that fire happened, if it would have gotten out of control, they were hauling water. The nearest fire hydrant was out on the street out by, I believe, if they had to go up and over the hill, it would have been out somewhere in front of Cave Springs or over by the Park and Rec building as the closer fire hydrants to any of that area, and fires run uphill. So that there's definitely higher potential, and I think it's a really much needed improvement.
Would there be the capacity to put a fire hydrant at the crest of the hill on the other side?
So one of the things that we would like to discuss, and we have not met with Cave Springs yet, is actually taking and running a line up through Cave Springs and putting a fire hydrant in Cave Springs and then connecting and looping back into this, potentially going all the way back over the hill and then connecting into the bathrooms. But that's kind of at a future timeline. So there, we have just preliminarily discussed that could be a future improvement.
Cool. And my only other question was, it mentions fiscal year 25. Since we have split year budgets, is the 75 something you're projecting into the last half of 2025, or is that already in the budget for this half of the year?
Yeah, so when I say 25, that's year ending 25, so that's ends this July, this July. And so we currently have 75,000. We need a little bit more to make sure we get the materials on hand and stuff like that. We already have the 4-inch, and then we have most of the valving. The additional materials is about 25,000 worth. And that's kind of a high estimate. We think we could trim that a little bit, so.
And this work would happen before the end of the fiscal year? So
Yeah.
we need to go into this budget?
If it's approved, they might be here next week.
Okay.
Well, given that there's fire pits down there, seems like I'm surprised that this hasn't been done years ago. They're
Yeah,
not
I
fire
agree.
pits, barbecue pits, not fire pits, but yeah.
They're probably using the river back in the day.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nope, I have no questions. We'll open it up to public comment.
Question. Ernie Wasson, South Second Street. The line that's going to go down to the bathrooms, the new 4-inch line, which way will it go?
I'll wait till after all the
Oh.
questions that I'll answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is your concern the botanical garden? If you have like a specific concern on the location, you can add to your public comment at this time, and then we can address the question later.
Oh,
Does that
okay.
make sense? Okay.
No, but yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to help you out.
So last year Ernie was running the botanical gardens, watering things by hand. Will this help with that?
Yeah.
Do you have any other public comment? Okay, we'll move to discussion.
Okay, So to answer your question, Ernie, so the 4-inch line is going to run along be the east side, so the ball field side of the blacktop, and that'll run and connect over at the top right there before the first switchback goes down the hill. We'll connect in the corner there next to the ball field. The 6-inch line is going to go, it's going to come off the fire hydrant that's bagged up by Becky's house there, and it's going to come over towards the tennis courts. It'll go down over the hill and run along the south side of the road. And then the fire hydrant will be placed kind of where those trees were piled, kind of where that gate that goes to the, towards the Dolly area. The fire hydrant is going to be in that general area, and then our connection point will be there. So it'll create a loop. And so it will provide more flow. And that if it's associated with sprinklers, that's a different project that we're going to look at doing. But this will definitely get us the flow we need for down there to help and be able to run all the sprinklers at one time, if that makes sense.
There you go. I have a weird offhand one that this just kind of came to mind. Have we done any updates for like a CUPCA, the construction uniform cost stuff? It just basically raises the procurement stuff. Okay, I'll have to send it to you. Okay. Never mind. I am happy to make a motion to approve the water main extension into the park to provide increased water flow for fire protection purposes and amend the budget to increase by $50,000.
57.
57, sorry.
Thank
It's been a long day.
I second.
And so you would then call for a roll call.
Call for roll call.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sebring.
Aye.
And Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor, before we move on, I just wanted to recognize, and Dustin could probably fill everyone in, I think this is one of the last areas where we don't have good pressure and coverage. There's a couple other areas, just as Dustin arrived here, that were addressed as part of the water project. I believe Blackberry Hill now has sufficient pressure, the top of Simpson. You could elaborate more on kind of this being one of the last areas.
Yeah, this is one of the last big gaps within the city. A lot of our pressure areas are on the higher elevations. So when we did complete the project in 2022, when I first got here, that pressure increase up at the top of Simpson went from like 22 pounds to 80 pounds of pressure. So allowing for additional fire coverage up the slope. And then additionally, we've had other areas that like up on Mikan and Mountain and in the other higher elevation areas where we've had issues in getting water flow. And so this is kind of the last one. This is a central Dunsmuir issue that we've kind of been lagging on just because it's our property and it wasn't, I'm not sure why it wasn't a priority years ago, but I think with the fires that vandalism that we happened in the bathroom, I think it's now is the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we will review and approve the city attorney RFP for publication.
All right, Mayor and Council, we adopted, the council adopted the resolution for all of our RFPs and on a regular scheduled calendar. And so this year we have a couple, and so I'm bringing forward the city attorney services RFP for publication. The council asked me to, once I complete those and have them ready for publication, to bring them to council for any additional comments and any potential revisions if they see fit. And so I'm presenting the RFP for your review and approval for publication.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
I have no questions at this time. I'll open up to public comment. No public comment. Okay, discussion.
Well, thank you for continuing in the process of revising the way we handle our independent contractors, Dustin. It's been amazing to see us go from one-page contracts from the 70s and handshake deals to an environment where we fairly and transparently spend public funds with the firm most able to provide those services to us. Of course, we always give careful consideration to a longstanding relationship and when something works and our needs are met by an organization. So I would encourage everyone to get the word out in the legal environment that we are looking for the best fit for Dunsmuir's city attorney going forward. I love being able to read through and review the RFP. It seems like it's longer than the other ones I've looked at before, but I suppose that makes sense since it's for an attorney.
And the biggest part of it that makes it a little longer is that there's an actual checklist and outline of how we're going to grade each of the submissions, plus some of the criteria is different than you've seen in other RFPs, just based on their experiences and those kind of things from a firm standpoint, and how they would, to give us a better gauge on how they would fit Dunsmuir.
And my other question is, we have 2 city attorneys currently, one dedicated to code enforcement, one for all other matters, generalist. Would the thinking be, depending on the responses we receive, to go to one or perhaps maintain both? But
I think my recommendation to the council would be to let's review that after we receive our RFPs, and what that looks like. If there is a firm that's fully capable of taking it on, from the standpoint of having to manage any of the legal activities, it's a lot easier to deal with one firm than multiple. I think Curtis has done great work, and it's just, at that point, it'll be council's preference. And so I think we'll just wait on the RFPs to show up, and then our proposals to show up, and then we can make a decision at that point.
And through the chair, just for the edification of the public, we technically only have 2 employees. We have the city manager and the city attorney. And so that is why the council's a little bit more involved in this request for proposal review and doing interviews with the final one. Typically, when we get a request for proposal, we bring recommendations to the final one, but this one, we do kind of more of an in-depth interview of each firm if we so choose. Or doing that because they actually report directly to the council, as opposed to other employees do not report to us. It's really just Dustin and the city attorney. Curtis Wright's kind of a weird quasi one, because the way that we had set up that contract is they work with staff, and so it's almost like a staff resource, but they do work for the city as the big terminology. But it is up to the purview of the council. You can have as many lawyers as you want, but you should have at least one. For the record, you should have, I think you are almost statutorily required to have at least one person serve that role, which I do not advise making that electoral, but
it is written in city code that we have to have an attorney.
I think that's in state code too, and it's just a good idea. But I'll motion to approve the proposed request for proposals and authorize for publication by the city manager.
Okay, I'll second. Move for roll call.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sebring.
Aye.
Mayor Clarno. Oh, you're muted, Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Moving on, ordinance 57 or 178, revising Dunsmuir Municipal Code to align with chapter 1524 130 with current state law, first reading.
All right, so this ordinance is before you today to amend a section of our municipal code. This is in regards to the very high fire severity zones ordinance. The reason for this amendment is that there have been changes in California state law since we previously adopted this ordinance, and it no longer aligns with those state laws. And so this is really just bringing the current ordinance up to par with the state laws. The reason we're bringing this to you now is because California has just released new fire hazard severity zone mapping. Dunsmuir was already a very high fire severity zone, so it really doesn't impact us at all. We went from 99% of the town to 100%. The only part, yeah. The only part that changed was the airport runway area, so it literally impacted no residents. So it's still the same. However, we will have to adopt that formally. And so when I was looking at the code, I was like, oh, this isn't right. So first, we're going to amend this, and that's why it's before you today, is to get your approval for moving this forward for a second reading. This is just the first reading right now. And then after that, we will bring forward the new maps, which are really the same as the old maps. It's just a formal process we have to do. So that's kind of why this came about now and why we're asking that of you.
So I'm assuming there is no very category beyond very high fire.
We're as
Correct.
far as we can go.
Yeah, yeah,
We are like this like blood red.
yeah, we were previously, and with the new maps, we still are the highest fire hazard severity zone, yes. And then I did want to just point out that in the attachments for this, you'll have there's a copy of the ordinance itself. There's a version of what the new municipal code would look like, and there's a version of the old municipal code with changes made to it, so you can see what the differences are between the new and the old and Christmas colors.
Questions?
I have no questions.
So we open up for public comment.
Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move to discussion.
It's state mandated language.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Okay.
So I'll motion to approve the first reading of proposed ordinance 578 and so move it to a second reading at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
I'll second. Yeah.
Okay, move to roll call.
I missed whoever seconded it. Who was it?
I did.
Thank you.
Sure.
No, motion by Lucchese, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Brian. Thank you.
I motion to accept the first reading or adopt the first reading and then move to second reading at the next regular scheduled meeting.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lucchese. Okay, roll call vote. Ready? Councilmember Brian.
Aye.
And Councilmember Hubbard.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Lucchese.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Sebring.
Aye.
And Mayor Clarno.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
We went from the bad news to now how we're going to fix it, to be fair. So it's going to be okay. Maybe.
We planned it that way.
Okay, next up is overview of resilient Dunsmuir plan.
Hold on just one second. Is it okay if I sit here for this presentation? Is that all right with everyone? All right. Okay, so this next item is talking about the resilient Dunsmuir planning effort. You may have seen a post this week on the city's Facebook page, like and follow for the latest news. The Resilient Dunsmuir Plan is a planning effort that we have just kicked off. We had our first stakeholder meeting last week. We're going to be doing a number of public outreach meetings. I'll get to that schedule here a little bit later. But this plan is really combining 3 planning efforts into one plan, and we're calling that the Resilient Dunsmuir Plan. So the 3 plans are the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, the Safety Element, and the Hazard Mitigation Plan. These plans are all related. They all have a lot of overlap to them, but they all are different plans and they all are different mandates. So they're plans that we have to have. And I'm adding a little plus up to the side of climate adaptation, because that's really related to all these things as well, planning for the future, what that future looks like here in Dunsmuir. And so this planning effort, whether it results in the creation of one singular resilient Dunsmuir plan, or if we have to break it up and submit it as 3 separate plans, we're doing the planning effort all as one. So we're really trying to streamline this as much as possible, lower the burden on staff and the public for having to provide all this feedback, especially because it overlaps, and lowering the burden for our stakeholders as well. So where these plans overlap, there's several areas. So one is stakeholders and collaboration. The stakeholders that are involved with this plan are really, with all 3 of these plans, are really the same people. Some of them are involved in varying degrees, like CAL FIRE is much more involved with the Community Wildfire Protection Plan than they typically are with a safety element, but they're still involved with both. And so it's really the same stakeholders. So by bringing the planning effort all under one umbrella, we're kind of reducing the need for more meetings than we have to have. Community engagement. These planning efforts kind of ask very similar questions of the public and kind of need very similar types of feedback. So again, by combining them all in one, we're lowering the burden for the public to provide feedback. We're not asking those same questions over and over again. I know that's a frustration of many people is, we provide this feedback and then you come and you ask, same questions for a different plan, like a little bit later on. We don't want to do that. We want to make it kind of all one effort. Hazards, vulnerability, and risk. All 3 of these plans talk about those 3 things. Obviously the CWPP is a little bit more focused on wildfire. That's the only thing it focuses on, but all 3 talk about those hazards, vulnerability, and risk. Community profiles and values. All 3 talk about those values that are at risk. And goals and objectives. All 3 have goals and objectives. Some of them, like with the safety element, are a little bit more aligned to land use planning, but they all relate and they all are similar. And I pulled out an example here. The reason why we also need to update these 3 plans, I didn't mention this, is the safety element especially. The last major update was in 2006, so it's been a while, and that is a deficient plan that we've identified that needs to be updated. The CWPP was last updated in 2016, which, if you can believe it, is almost 10 years ago now. And the Siskiyou Hazard Mitigation Plan, that one is technically being updated right now. We don't necessarily have to do a hazard mitigation plan as a city. However, we're going to be doing this outreach anyway, so we might as well submit for it. And this might also help create a buffer for the future. I would definitely encourage us to continue to fall under the county's plan, because they typically get money for it. It's something that they run for all the communities. However, if that plan lapses in the future like it is right now, we might be covered for a little bit longer for, like, if we adopt this next year, we'll be covered for a year longer. So it would give us a good buffer in the future, because that plan has to be updated every 5 years. But these goals and objectives here, you can see if you look at them, they all kind of talk about protection and life and safety in a way. So goal 1 in the CWPP, goal 4 in the current safety element, and goal 1 in the current hazard mitigation plan are all very related. And if you use the goal 1 from the hazard mitigation plan, that really covers the other 2 goals. So I believe that there's a way to kind of align those goals and objectives to make it much more streamlined. And that way all these plans are talking to each other in a much more compatible way as well. These plans also overlap in identifying mitigation capabilities. And so they require agencies to identify what those mitigation capabilities are. They all overlap in the sense that they want you to identify action items, projects that you want to do. And so this, again, they might be different for these different plans, but if you put them all in one document, you can pull them out for which plans they are a part of, and you can identify them that way. And then prioritization, each plan requires prioritization of those items. And again, if we need to pull out the CWPP ones to be separate, we can prioritize them against all items that we identify and just the CWPP ones. But by doing this all in one plan, it's much more streamlined and they all talk to each other. And then plan review and updates, they periodically have to be reviewed and updated. And actually, HMP update triggers a safety element update, and a safety element update triggers a HMP update. So by doing this all as one plan, we did the update. So it reduces the need to do those sorts of things. So where these plans differ, they all have different approval processes. So that's the big one here. When we submit them for approval, they'll go to different agencies. The different agencies have different things they look at, and they approve them in different ways. CWPP obviously is wildfire only. The other two are comprehensive of all our hazards. The safety element is focused on land use planning and guidelines to reduce using like land use to reduce your risk to hazards. And the CWPP projects are typically much more detailed than what you would find in an HMP and a safety element, especially the HMP. So there are some nuances there that we'll have to work out with combining all these plans. But they're, in my mind, there are much more similarities than there are differences. So what the schedule looks like. I'm a very organized person, so I already scheduled all these meetings. So we have public meetings, so mark your calendars, they're scheduled, they're on the city's website right now. Under emergency preparedness, they are on the city's calendar right now. Public meetings on March 11th, May 20th, July 22nd, and September 9th. And we have one CWPP specific meeting that we're gonna have at a Firewise meeting, which is on June 10th. These are virtual and in person. They're all going to be here at City Hall. The link there on the website is how you can find more information on those schedules. But each meeting will have specific topics and themes throughout the planning process. And this is not going to be the only opportunity for public input. We certainly, these meetings are good because we can really, dive into it and talk a lot more about it in detail. But it's also a lot of information and you might not care that much, and that's fine. So there'll be other ways for you to provide feedback. One of them is that we'll be at these community events throughout the year. We'll have spring and fall green waste days, which are also already scheduled, May 3rd and October 18th. So mark your calendars for that. And then Dogwood Days, Railroad Days, and River and Rails Brewfest. We'll have tables there where you can provide input to questions that we ask. And we're also doing something that we're calling the question of the week for Resilient Dunsmuir. So we'll post that on our Facebook page each week and our city website, a question where you can provide feedback that will go into the planning effort. We also will have that question of the week at the Dunsmuir Library. There's a QR code there that you can scan and answer the question as well. And I actually, I thought I put it here, but let me go ahead and pull this up. So this is the question that I brought for you guys today. This is actually different from the question of the week. So if you want to answer that one, you still can. But if you want to pull out your phones and scan the QR code.
Are you gonna engage us?
I actually am right now. So there's a QR code here at the bottom.
Will it do us a QR code?
It's not.
Did it?
This slideshow is different.
I was gonna say, did it work? Oh, mine worked. That's crazy.
Thank you.
Thought you already showed us the results.
All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and work on that while I finish this presentation. So submitting the plan, we plan to be working on this planning effort throughout 2025. So we expect to submit the plan in late 2025, early 2026. Because it is 3 different plans and it's through 3 different approval processes, I'm gonna say tentatively it'll be done spring or summer 2026. So it'll be a bit of a longer approval process, I anticipate, just because it is 3 separate plans. But that's kind of what that's looking like in terms of approval. So now I'm going to show you. So it looks like somebody submitted already.
You're
So
welcome.
Perfect. So as people submit, oh, I need to stop sharing and reshare. Let's see. All right, so as people submit, you'll see the dots on the screen will adjust and continue to update. And so it's kind of a cool tool that we've been using. We use this in the stakeholder meeting. I can hover over one of the numbers and you can see where people put severe thunderstorm. So there's 3 responses so far. You can see, let's see, which is earthquake. You can see where people put earthquake. I have 4 responses now. But this will update as people submit their answers. So we use this for the stakeholder meeting. It worked really well. We'll continue to use this for the question of the week also. And I anticipate us using the sum in the public meetings, although I do know that there's a big preference for people to do stuff in person handwritten. So I don't want to totally rely on this. But that this is an option, and it is cool because you can see like the visual results as they come in, which is super beneficial for the hybrid or virtual meetings. So thank you for providing feedback. I got 5, 6 responses, so thank you. But that's all I have for the Resilient Dunsmuir Plan. So I just wanted to share that with everybody since you'll probably be hearing more about it this year.
And that survey is also available, I believe it's posted to the Dunsmuir Neighborhood Watch page by the Community Resource Center, if you want to find it there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
This is lovely.
Interesting.
This is
Interesting
good
comparing.
planning, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited when other people want to plan.
Yeah, thank you.
My only question would be when the time comes for renewal, based on the different timing requirements, is it something that could be renewed together each time easily, or is this more of an alignment right now because we're so far behind on 2 plans?
It could be a renewal, like so the minimum requirement, I think, out of all 3 of them is the HMP has to be updated every 5 years. So that's probably the shortest timeline. So if every 5 years we wanted to do all 3 of them, we could. And that's probably would be the best thing to do. But the other 2 technically wouldn't have to be updated.
Yeah, per state law, if you update your LHMP, you are statutorily required to update your safety element within like the next like 9 months or something like
So you
that.
may as well do it.
Yeah, they literally all, so it's like a cascading thing, because the other thing too is every time your safety element is mandatorily required to be updated, I believe every 5 years as well, ish. There's like something in there that says it. It's like a weird thing. But yeah, and essentially they all trigger each other to be updated. So doing them all at once makes sense. The big problem we run into is the state, for some reason, is very confused by presenting one document.
Yeah, I've been told that they don't want it as one document.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna try it.
Yeah.
And just see what happens.
We're gonna do the
But-
same thing.
But
They're very confused by combining processes for similar things, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Why would you do that?" And it's like,
Well, you're taking away somebody's job.
It's probably 3 different offices that review each one.
Yeah, well, it is. It goes to 3 different, and they don't like to talk to each other, and so this forces them to talk to each other.
Well, I will say CAL FIRE is very excited for a combined plan, but
They are.
every other agency is not.
Yeah.
Because they have to, CAL FIRE is the only one that has to review all 3. Right? Or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
They are involved in all 3, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
They
the
were
only
very
agency.
excited. Yeah, because we've had the same conversation. But every other one was like, why would you do this? So it's very fun. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll open it up to public comment. Okay, no further public comment. Move to discussion.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm fully supportive of trying to do all 3 at once.
Yeah.
Look forward to the increased engagement that'll lead to one plan.
And we're glad you're still here.
Yeah.
At least for right now.
Yeah.
Your funding's good.
Knock on wood. I appreciate all the effort you put into this.
What we'll do is with the letter, we'll send a photo of Stephen and be like, this is what's at stake for us. If you take away our federal funding, we don't get Stephen.
That's up in the air. We believe he's protected, but
Yeah,
it all depends on how the state has to tweak their
it'll be,
budget. So
we'll be fine. Everything's fine.
he's gonna be here. He's gonna get everything finished and he's gonna rock.
And so you just take us into future agenda items and just ask if anyone's got any, otherwise we're.
Do I read all of these? No. Okay.
So you'll just say that was our last action item and we'll now move into future agenda items. Are there any other future agenda items tonight?
Oh, okay, that ends our agenda items. We'll move into future agenda items. Are there any more agenda items you'd like to see?
Channeling the energy of the folks who commented on the theater. Obviously, it's been a ongoing source of disappointment for the town since its slide into decay began decades ago and has continued. I know council, at the new council members' very first meeting, had a code enforcement update with the code enforcement attorney. We had talked about improving maybe the process, and how things were handled, and gave direction at that point in time. Could we fit in, it doesn't have to be next meeting, but maybe sometime in the next 2 to 3 meetings, some further engagement on standardizing how the information flows between council, city manager, and that attorney. And priorities are not just set, which we've been involved with, but managed as things evolve.
I think we covered a couple of other items earlier in the agenda, so I have nothing else to request.
Yeah,
But
and just to
I know-
recap on the additional items that were discussed earlier, planning commission makeup, that, or I wrote down the planning commission makeup and revising the ordinance on that, and then planning commission stipend discussion. I believe this were the two from before.
Yes, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh,
All in
Very
favor?
good.
Aye, adjourned.
yeah, thank you.
Sarah? Juliana got sick one day, like early on too. I was just like, what? I was the vice mayor.
The Sacramento River, that spring never seemed to go dry. I'm surprised at how many people actually believe that that spring there is actually the headwaters of the Sacramento River. That was actually a promotional deal back in the 40s to try to get people up in this area. That spring provides very little water to the rest of the Sacramento River. It does, and it's always being monitored, especially by the Fish and Game Department. They have a hatchery downstream from that, and I'm sure they're not going to allow anything to happen to dry that